It's time for Agriculture, presented by Turkana Farms in Germantown, New York, a small-scale producer of heritage breed livestock and a wide array of vegetables and berries on just over 39 acres. They also produce a full array of garden vegetables, many of them heirloom varieties raised naturally, as well as an assortment of berries, including raspberries, blackberries, gooseberries, black, red, and white currants, mulberries, and elderberries. And now, here's Mark Scherzer.
All right already. I admit it. I'm getting old. Boy, that was hard. At 68, I'm not exceptionally old to be either a lawyer or a farmer. Lawyer demographic statistics are hard to come by, but it's not hard to find lots of articles in legal journals these days about the coming silver tsunami of lawyers practicing past age 65. And everyone seems aware that there are a lot of old farmers. According to the last census of American agriculture, the average age of the American farmer is 57.5. Here in Columbia County, New York, people 55 to 64 years old constitute the biggest single block of farmers, followed by those 65 to 74 years old. In the aggregate, those between 45 and 74 constitute over two-thirds of the farmers in the county. There were more farmers in that last census 75 years and older than there were in Troy and Victoria's age group, 25 to 34. Now, it may be that statistics exaggerate the predominance of older farmers, and that lots of young people probably have decision-making roles in agriculture without being formally in either the owner or operator role that gets them counted as a farmer for census purposes. But the fundamental reality is that there are a lot of us older folks doing tasks that are popularly associated with young, vigorous people with glowing skin and sinewy muscle. I have to admit that I've seen continuous engagement in hard physical labor as a pathway to fending off age. I looked at neighbors like Bob and Ann Ryder, who until Bob's death in his late 80s were actively working their orchard, and was convinced that I was precisely that work that kept them so wonderfully alive and engaged in the world around them for so many years. As for myself, I always took great comfort in there being no tasks on the farm that my age restricted me from doing. That I could wrestle sheep, climb ladders, dig ditches, plant trees, and haul feed gave me immense satisfaction. My partner, Peter, who began to suffer a lot of impediments for which he required my assistance before he died in his 81st year, kept telling me I should not revel so much in my physical capacities, lest I be devastated when those capacities declined. Such comments just made me all the more resolved to just chug along and keep doing it. The first jolt of reality came, I fear, last Saturday. I was digging a trench along a vegetable bed in order to plant leeks. I was using a shovel that was a little too short for the task. And in one moment, as I twisted slightly in the wrong direction, I felt a searing pain in my right butt. I worked on with a better shovel, but starting that night, compounding the effects of a bad cold and cough everyone in the house was enduring, I could barely sleep for lack of a comfortable position for my leg. Getting up and down were both moan and groan-inducing events. Walking became hobbling. Stairs were always taken good leg first. After 3 sleepless nights and incapacitated days, I forced myself to the doctor, who blessedly prescribed anti-inflammatories and sent me to an orthopedist for x-rays and an evaluation. Catastrophizing ahead of the visit, I dreamt at night of needing hip replacement surgery and how to decide between hospitals. I was much relieved when the doctor told me there was plenty of space still left in my hip joint, and that I simply had suffered an overuse injury. I was considerably less happy, however, to hear the remedy. Not only will I need 2 to 4 months of physical therapy, but, he said, I will have to take things very easy. The minute I responded, "But this is a farm," I could see the expression change on the doctor's face. He'd clearly met my type before, and the lecture ensued. "You can ignore what I say and push yourself. You'll have plenty of relief from the drugs, and it may seem just fine for a while. But if you don't do as I say, you may find yourself with a permanent limp and in chronic pain." I wanted to tell him how growing leeks means so much to me. Part of it's an emotional bond. Peter, born in Cardiff, used to tell me how on St. David's Day, March 1st, the day of Wales's patron saint, The boys wore leeks, the Welsh national vegetable, in their lapels, while the girls wore daffodils. Part of it's that the process of planting and growing leeks has always appealed to me. Each tiny seedling is transplanted into an individual hole in the bottom of a trench and firmed in with mud, in a process my mother would have called patchkaing. Being deep in the trench helps keep them appropriately moist, and as the leeks grow, the dirt that was excavated for the trench is mounded back around them to blanch the stems. The row of leeks with their deep green flat leaves above the soil stands like a decorative border army of soldiers in the vegetable garden. And I love eating leeks. In the cold summer soup vichyssoise, or steamed and served in a vinaigrette as a starter dish, or Turkish style braised in olive oil as a meze, or crisply sautéed with carrots as a side dish, or smothering a pork shoulder as a Macedonian casserole. Leeks were always a staple in our kitchen and our garden, where we grew hundreds each year until 2017, when the allium leaf borer arrived without warning and ate our entire crop. In 2018, we had done our research and knew how to combat these alien insect invaders. We were doing fine until Peter's accident and death in September, just when the leeks needed to be covered again against the fly's next egg-laying wave. With our attentions elsewhere, we lost the crop a second time. I was absolutely resolved that this year there would be bounteous leeks once again. I could tell that none of this story, the emotional issue, the satisfaction of growing leeks, the pleasure of eating them, the challenge of conquering the leaf borer, the imperatives of the farm, not one element would sway the stern doctor from his order that I take it easy. After all, when I pressed him on what I could do without overdoing it, in his words, all I got back was a sphinx-like smile, as if to say, "You surely know." I don't know that I do know. I don't know that I'll accept the new limitations of my old age. I might turn out to be one of those stubborn sorts who will live with a limp. Or I may get wise and trade chores like trench digging with Troy and Victoria, or bring in some mechanized help. I do know that one way or another, we are going to have leaks.
Agriculture is underwritten by Tricana Farms, LLC, a small-scale producer of heritage-bred livestock and a wide array of vegetables and berries on just over 39 acres in Germantown, New York. More information, 518-537-3815.